I feel like Houston traffic's bad, but like you make it seem because you've been in Houston, you've lived in Houston, and now you live in LA, so
Yes.
it's like you know.
Well, yeah. There's just like I don't know, like what, 5 million more people here?
Oh wow, really?
So it's like, because Houston's like the third largest city, well, sort of Chicago. They're kind of like both, whatever. But there's just, I don't know. And then also like the time of day, like really, really affects it. But it's all good. I am home now and much more relaxed.
That's what's up. So like when you say be present, because like me, like I struggle with texting, right? And I struggle with
Yeah. Wait,
I'm
what do you mean you struggle with texting? Like texting people back or just like in general text?
I would say like I to me like text messages are mostly like emails, right? In that like I'll get to it when I
Mm,
get to it, right? And I
yeah.
always
That's that's hilarious. Not noted, don't email Brian.
no, like if you email me or you text me and it's like super like urgent or whatever, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
some things require immediate attention, but a lot of
For
things don't,
sure.
right?
Yeah, most things don't, I would say.
Now the thing with me is that like I won't answer my phone anywhere, right? I could be with
Yeah.
someone, I could be, you know, if I'm in a movie theater, of course I'll like slide to the left and or like, hit the red button and text you like, yo, I'm in the theater, what is
Right.
everything okay? But like I've been at work like, and I've been in jobs or job settings where I've answered the phone for certain individuals because there's certain people I don't not answer the phone for. But generally
Yeah.
speaking, I'm really good with that, and I'm a very visual person, and I'm a very what's the word I'm looking for? Like hands-on person. Like I
Mm,
display affection a lot, and I receive affection a lot through touch, right? So of course my friend,
yeah.
she goes, of course you do. You're a guy, visual and tactile. You're you're totally a dude.
Okay, okay. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Thank you,
And
thank you.
let me tell you this. I was just talking to a friend about is it just cuffing season or do I just like literally need to like go hug someone for a little bit? Like I have been feeling like it's a physiological thing for everybody. Like we just simply need to be touched and a lot of times there's not many uh safe like platonic environments to do that, or
Hmm.
like to have like comfortable, vulnerable and safe like touch with friends or partners or whomever.
Okay, and why? Okay, no, I wouldn't even ask why, because I totally relate to that. Just because like I live in a new city now, and I'm at work
Yeah.
in Orange, and I live in Beaumont. Excuse me, I'm at work in Orange, and I live in Beaumont, and like the other day at
How
work,
far?
they're like 20 minutes away.
Oh.
So they're like that's a 20-minute drive, which is nothing from someone who lived in Houston. But like
Yeah.
I'm in this new space, and I'm still building friends, and I'm still making connections and relationships, and it's like I'm at work, and it's like, yo, like, and it's not something that a guy is supposed to say, which is crazy, right? And I'll sort of
Right.
explain what I learned from the
Okay.
speaker who totally made sense in a second. But I'm
Mm.
at work, and I'm like, yo, like I think it was because I was sick and I had the flu, and like I just wasn't feeling well, and like even now I'm still
Aw.
recovering, and I'm like, I could really use a hug from someone right now, right?
Yeah.
Like that would just like a just real full on like you know warm like hug like and it sounds so
For
weird
sure.
to articulate that because like it's I go from my apartment to work, and I'm around coworkers and colleagues and patients, and I go straight home, and that's just the
Yeah.
what it is every day, day in and day out. And I'm like, yo, like I go without outside of like patience, it's just like I go without touch for like a really long period of time, and sometimes like it wears at me. But
For sure.
I learned from a speaker, and he says, or he communicated that a lot of times we're conditioned as men to believe that the only time that we're able to touch others is through some sort of like I guess aggression or violent act, be it playfulness, fighting, whatever, and or sports, or
Mm.
he said through aggression or through some violent act or through some sexual, I guess, encounter or experience. And
Yeah,
as a
interesting.
yeah, as a man, it's like you're told like either you're having sex or you're I guess playing sports, or you're tackling, or you're in the post, or
Like
whatever the case is.
wrestle, like
Yeah,
fighting,
there you
or
go. And so it's like, even when you're with your partner, when you're with a woman, it's like, holding hands is supposed to be her idea and not supposed to be cute to her. You know what I'm saying? Or
mm.
being lovey-dovey, or quote unquote caking, or whatever you want to call it. That's supposed to be her thing, or the thing that she, initiates, or whatever. But that's why I really appreciated you stopping and you saying, "Well, no, not really." I thought it was interesting that you would stop me and that you would say, "No, no, 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 no."
Well, I haven't really, I don't think I've ever really thought about that. And I have definitely thought about a lot of different aspects of like conditioning for men and like, you know, masculinity and toxic masculinity, or like just like where like the origins of lots of rules about gender and our expectations. But I mean, that sucks because I was at a birthday party last night, and Julian, my friend, and his girlfriend Hannah own this like weed yoga studio that I work at. Uh, and they like a lot of times after class, like we'll all just go like literally like lie down, sit on like just sit with each other and have like our arms over each other's legs and just kind of like chilling. And it's like that it was so meaningful to me to have like two people that are my friends that I feel safe with and just like can just kind or like even just like my friend gave me like a back rub the other night, just like random shit like that. Like we just, we literally need it. Our bodies need it. And it's just sad to me that men, it's so harmful to everyone that men aren't allowed to be, like tender, or like there has to be some kind of um like you were saying, like force or harshness to everything.
I mean, for one, I think that that was like really cool in your story, that how I guess your friend Hannah could understand that, okay, Anna's being touched by Julian, and I know it's not, or they're next to each other, and it's not like
Mm.
some sexual undertone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's no like offense, or there's no intrusion into my space or his space or our relationship, because we understand that this that us just laying there and being next to each other isn't anything strange or weird, or what all the things we explain ourselves to be conditioned to understand or view that as. And I guess my question would be I don't know, have you met, or do you know like any guys that you would consider tender, like, oh man, like this person in my life, or
Mm.
these men, or men of this demographic, or you know this one time in, high school, I knew this guy. Do you know or have you known any men that were or are tender, and what did that look like?
Yeah, actually, yes. He is my yoga teacher. He's my friend. He's my business coach. He's a mentor of mine. Um, his name is Dan, and he absolutely is tender. Like he is such a kind person, and that just kind of emanates in his like physical actions for sure.
No, it's definitely, present, really present in American culture and in, I
Mm.
guess, a lot of ins and outs that that you know we operate in, not just as men but as women, in the reaffirming or the recommunicating and reconveying of hypermasculinity and toxic masculinity. And
Mm.
a lot of a lot of people would think that, because like the whole childhood playground sort of mentality or, depiction or narrative, that there's a lot of like, dudes punching, each other on the arm, like, hey dude, toughen up, or, stop acting like a little, beware per
Yeah.
se, or this and that. And I think that just as often as guys reinforce that narrative, I've experienced like a lot of, also women who would reinforce it, in that like, I can't, to your point, like you were saying earlier, like I can't be a tender person with you without there being an assumption. You know what I'm saying? So now I have to be more standoffish or more hard or
Wait, an
more,
assumption of what?
like that I am trying to make a pass at you, or I'm trying to advance.
Uh,
You know what I'm
gotcha,
saying?
gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
So like if I'm
Um,
tender, or if I like show affection, or like if I'm a Dan, right?
yeah.
And of course, Dan has earned your trust, and he's earned your a place within your space. But like if I'm a Dan, and you're not Anna, who is completely just beautiful and understanding and open and amazing. If I'm a Dan and you're not an Anna who doesn't receive that, well, legitimately, maybe there's been past, experiences, prior experiences, that's caused that, or that's, you know, solidified that. But if I'm a Dan, then maybe there's an assumption that, like, yo, like Brian totally is trying to make, and
Um,
yeah.
oh, totally. I mean, I think that there is an overarching mentality that men, like straight men and women, simply can't be friends. Like, there's no way. And that is just really silly to me. And I have experience has taught me that, and people have literally told me for years since I was very young that if a dude is like looking at you, he's just thinking about fucking you. Like literally. My whole life that has been told to me.
Yeah.
Or like they only want you for sex. That's all. I mean, it's really fucked up. Like I have for a very, very, very long time just been told that the only value that men see in me is sexual. Not only does that not feel good, but like you just can't live your life that way. Like you literally can't think that, or like you won't get anything like done, or like you're just cutting yourself off from so much. And then there's like, but then it gets proven time and time again.
Yeah.
Like it just happens where like, oh, dude, that's a friend. Literally, like you, one time I hung out with this guy a couple times in a like incredibly platonic way, and then like a week after, was like, he basically was like, so you're my girlfriend. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what? And just like, and then the worst part of that is, then you have to be like, no, I don't want that. And then they like lose their shit on you and are just like, and then it becomes this really destructive thing. So I think, I don't know, it's when you have been told something and when experience has proven it, it's really hard to get out of that like thought pattern. It is.
I guess I'm assuming that said friend or said destructive situation, he was being tender, and he was, I guess communicating or conveying affection just for the wrong reasons, and he had an incentive to do so per se.
Mhm.
So like, what do healthy, I guess, relationships involving men, that involve touch, that involve tenderness, what does that look like for you as far as boundaries, as far as security, as far as vulnerability, as far as safety? What does a healthy friendship exclude and include, involving the opposite sex when it comes to tenderness and affection and touch and things like that?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think that, I mean, I've spent the night in a bed next to like guy friends of mine that have been completely platonic and felt completely safe and comfortable and like it's no big deal. And so I think that the boundaries just have to be set, and as long as there's clear communication, like it's all good. And if somebody's intentions change, like that's, of course that's possible, right? Like so many romantic relationships are born out of friendships, which is great. Um that just has to be communicated, because if both people are not on the same page, like that's just misalignment, and misalignment causes frustration, or like assumptions, like assuming that someone wants to date you because they're spending time with you. Like just a simple fact that not everybody that I want to spend time with I want to date. Like
Yeah.
that should be like, so I think that clear communication and like verbalized boundaries are kind of the key. Just checking in, being comfortable enough to say like, yeah, I don't care if you like crash in my bed tonight because we were all out and you need a place to stay, or like, hey, I'd rather you sleep on the couch or whatever. Like, just
Having that
you,
conversation,
yeah, you have to be able to communicate.
or not even a conversation, just making a statement as far as where your boundaries are and what's expected, I guess, per se. Like,
Yeah,
this is what it is. Not we're not necessarily
absolutely.
agreeing on anything or coming to, you know, coming to putting our heads together per se. But this is what it is, and this is what it isn't.
Exactly.
Communication definitely, I think is key in most really everything.
Right. I do think a lot about how kind of going through my day, it's easy for me to be afraid of men. men are like are literally the number one health risk to women. It's and like I think that the femininity and masculinity that we see in this culture are so far from what they are like what those qualities actually are. Which is why I think it's so funny. Like you were saying, like if kids on the playground, like you know, call some kids like crying, like oh don't be such a bitch or whatever, or my sister said she overheard a woman say like oh this dude's being such a pussy, right? And it's so ironic to me, A, that any woman would ever say that because that's an inherently sexist statement. And B, literally, women are so the opposite of weak. Like, every woman I know is strong as fuck. And I just see it. I mean, you see it everywhere. Everywhere you go. So I think it takes conscious unlearning to remove yourself from that. And
Yeah.
it's so hard to know. I'm like, will I ever know if I actually like makeup, or did I just like was I just told for years and years and years that I need to, so sometimes I wear makeup. And then I'm like, wait, am I not wearing makeup because I thought that I was told to wear makeup? And it's just if we were all a little bit more okay with like who we actually are, then we wouldn't have to rely on these societal expectations that honestly just limit us in so many ways and hinder us from fulfilling friendships and hinder us from like literally technological innovation, right?
Yeah.
Like there are so many things that could change if we had been utilizing the other half of the population for something other than like cleaning the house. um, I don't know. Okay.
Like, I guess to your point where you were communicating the unlearning, right? And how like a lot of the traditions and a lot of the conditions in which we've been expected to perform or operate within, they're all just like these made up things, and I've always seen wisdom as far as like self-evolution and self-improvement and self-reflection. I've always seen wisdom as being sort of this thing that's like performing surgery and like knowing what parts of yourself to remove while having the
Mm,
precision and the wherewithal to leave intact and leave unscathed the things that need to remain or that are
right.
essential. You know what I'm saying? Because within all of these things that we're calling made up or we're calling false, within hypermasculinity, within toxic femininity per se, there are things within these ideas or these wrong ways of operating or living that are essential to just being a human in general.
Yes.
Just being a human being in general and surviving in general. But it's understanding where things distorted or what's unnecessary or what's being exaggerated or what's being monetized, which is really what a lot of it
Yeah.
is at the end of the
Oh,
day. And
oh my God.
removing those things while leaving the things that are essential to our survival and to our well-being and to our loving one another intact. And I totally
Mhm.
am on board with everything you were saying. And I guess what I would want to know or understand is it almost sounds like I don't want to sound like I'm oversimplifying things because I tend to do that. But
Just yeah, I'm no judgment. Just say what you need to say and we'll talk about it.
so like what can be done? Like what does one do about, these conditions or these terms or these ideals per se, and these toxic ways of operating and thinking? Like if you were talking to your brother, if you were talking to me, or if you were talking to Dan or a really close
Hmm.
friend, what do you say to a man, like in terms of hypermasculinity, in terms of affection, in terms of touching, in terms of tenderness? Like what do you say to these people? Or maybe it's someone, men that you don't know, but in general, what do you communicate to the men in your life and the men around you in terms of are involving these things?
Yeah. I what I often end up saying is that like it's so easy to it's so easy to cast the blame on like a bunch of creeps. Just like it's so easy to isolate, you know, oh, those are the bad ones, like in any population. Um, like white people, right? It's so easy to like, oh, well, those are just like the crazy racists. But if I'm not doing anything that actively like promotes the undoing of systemic oppression, if I'm not speaking out against those people, if I'm just sitting back doing nothing, then I am actively part of the problem, even if I'm being passive. And I think it's totally the same way for sexism. I think that anytime any dude lets any other dude like I mean anything from like slut shaming or I mean just like whatever number of millions of things or like let I mean I have been walking with like large groups of dudes and still random ass dudes have come up and grabbed me or yelled something at me. So I think that those are extreme examples, although they happen like on the daily. And I think that those are just as problematic as the like whatever sexual comment made in a, the workplace or um like wolf whistle or whatever. Like anytime that people sit back and let those things happen, you're saying that has my seal of approval.
Gotcha. So I guess your message to, me and the other men in your life would be to not only refrain from participating or I guess being involved in, these hyper masculine acts or these sexist sort of, I guess, expressions, but it would be to not tolerate it from the men and the those around me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely understand that. I completely understand that, and yeah, no, I wouldn't say that I've, of course I have, ton of guy friends, and I wouldn't say that in every situation or scenario when a woman's name is brought up that they know or this person, is involved with, or, there's some weird undertone or there's some weird sort of expression. I can't say that as a man, like I've, stepped in between or done the right thing in all of those situations or circumstances and said, hey, you probably shouldn't talk about her like that, or, you probably shouldn't, be, or have that, paradigm or that mindset towards, you know,
Mm.
not even someone that you say you're into, but just a woman or anyone in general. And yeah, that's something I could definitely get better at and improve on. And I think as far as like hypermasculinity goes, like I'm just like really privileged.
Mm,
Like I don't know. I guess it was something that I didn't buy into really early.
yeah.
And I don't think that I necessarily identified it as me operating against hypermasculinity, more so as me just understanding my own individualism and I guess choosing to be brave about who I wanted to be and how I wanted to live my life. And just for a straight man and like a heterosexual man, like I am able to just express myself in ways and maneuver and operate in ways that like I said, I just feel really privileged. Like I can
Mm,
tell my guy friends, I can tell my little brother, I can tell the men in my life, like I love you. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah.
that's not even just like some like we're drinking or like one of those moments or whatever. Like legit, when we hang up the phone, it's all right, man. Love you. All right, love you too. And sometimes it'd be like, person you would be like, hey, who you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And I'll be like that's my people, that's my friend or whatever. And of course, it's you only have to explain when it's a guy. You don't have to explain when it's a, when it's a girl or whatever, when it's a woman. But just being able to express myself and understand that at a point in time I was into design and I was into fashion and a lot of the things that were called girly or
Mhm.
feminine. And I understood myself when I moved out here. Like I really had like a really big interior design moment. And I just, and it was weird
Good.
because I was still operating within that sort of narrative, because I told myself like, yo, like I'm gonna do what I want to do now, because when I get married, my wife's totally not, if I get married, when I get married, whatever, my wife's totally not gonna let me be the one to make these decisions. But it's like, why not? You know what I'm saying? If like
For sure.
why would I
Like,
assume that that's only a woman's role, or that
yeah.
yeah, I think that I'm just really privileged to be able to talk and act and just move how I want to move as
Mm,
a straight man, and not have it always assumed to be, you know, or be tender, excuse me, and be, all of these things, and not have it assumed to be anything too strange. Not saying that people don't come, aren't put off by it, but it's not anything too strange or too heavy. And
mm.
I think I'm just really fortunate that I could get to have that freedom or that luxury.
Absolutely. I think you do that very well. Like I would absolutely like you are absolutely tender and it it just I mean to me it just comes across as like being very kind and very genuine like yourself, right? Because I think that so many guys, a lot of them would if they let themselves would realize that like maybe that's actually kind of more like who they really are, you know,
Mm,
instead of putting up a front or trying to prove something,
mm,
you know? Try like what is this idea of just like having to constantly display that you're a man, like whatever that means.
yeah.
I think that that's probably what happens, you know, to a lot of guys. Yeah, I don't know.